Hello everybody and welcome to my garage. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how I am going to Rust-Oleum epoxy my garage, and I cannot wait to have a better space to work in and to be able to clean up and to look at all the time. So super excited about it, and I want to go through the products that I chose and then go through how I get it done and how I get this thing painted up and looking good. So as you can see here, I got 2 of these garage kits. I have about a 2.5 car garage, and I wanted to get 2 kits because based on the YouTube videos and things that I've read, it's a little bit thin of coats, and so I wanted to make sure I had enough. So just got a little extra just in case. I got a painting kit from Home Depot and a pole and a roller as well. And then I also got Rust-Oleum's degreaser, so we'll be using this guy pretty quick here. And I got just some cleaning materials and also a quickcrete patch for some of the cracks and things that I have on my floor in here. Don't have too much, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. But I think this is more so if you want to, kind of an optional thing. But I also have a pressure washer. Kind of a small one, but I already had it, so I'm going to use it. Not sure if it's necessary, but really excited to check this guy out. It's a 12-inch surface cleaner. So I think this will be really good in the beginning, so I can knock out a bunch of the big stuff early. And then before I even get started, I got a little bit of plastic to wrap my cupboards and everything so that I can make sure not to get water everywhere and make sure to, prep everything up really well. So let's go ahead and get started. One of the things I wanted to make sure that you guys understood is the timeline. This actually took me 5 days when I was kind of anticipating a 3-day schedule. So the first step, so day 1, is going to be your prep, clean, and etch. That's going to be your biggest day. The prep job is the most important piece of this puzzle to making sure that your epoxy sits and stays on there really well. Then it's going to be your patching the cracks. And then I had to paint the trim, so it may be different in your case. Then from there, epoxy, add the clear coat, and then you can finally be finished. So in this first day, we are just getting everything out of the garage. We had a ton of crap in there, including our washer and dryer. Hopefully you guys don't have that happen to you. And our water softener as well. So we had to get all of the appliances off the ground, any kind of miscellaneous stuff off the ground. This was would have been much easier when you first move into a house and you do it before you even add anything in. So highly recommend that. But we were just going ahead and taking everything out, turning off all the water, making sure we were good to go. But it was really nice to get everything out because we were able to throw away a lot of stuff at the same time. So that was really helpful, and we enjoyed that. And then here comes more of the prep. So we got everything off the floor, and then we wanted to make sure we protected our cupboards quite a bit. And then we started doing quite a bit of sweeping. So we're putting the plastic up so that we can really get underneath there with water. All right, everybody, we have cleaned up the floor pretty good. We've just brushed everything and used a blower to get mostly everything out. And now we are going to do a little rinsing. We have a little power washer and attachment for the ground, just to do kind of like the first stage of it. Again, this is optional, but because I have it, I'm going to use it. And then from there, I'm going to use this degreaser and a bucket and pour that all along the floor here and get all these grease stains, all these oil stains cleaned up and ready to go. So let's get started. So here I am, finally getting to use the surface cleaner, that 12-inch surface cleaner. I really liked it. It's just, I think my pressure washer didn't have enough RPMs or pressure, so highly recommend maybe even renting one if you want to do this step as well. But I think that the degreaser does a better job. Additionally, I had a lot of miscellaneous tape on the ground. I had to get off of a metal brush, so just look around and make sure you're getting everything off the ground before you really start. All right, we just finished our first rinse. The pressure washer was okay. I think I need a little bit more pressure than that one. But what I'm going to do here is use this Rust-Oleum degreaser. And the thing right here says If you have any tough stains, do full concentration, but for the rest of it, do 1-to-1. So I'm gonna fill a gallon of water and dilute this in our Home Depot bucket over there. But for some of this really tough stain stuff, as you can see there, I'm gonna pour it directly on. So there's a couple different spots over here that are pretty bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour that right onto it. So I'll show you guys that. We had just moved in here pretty recently, so a lot of these stains weren't ours, but there's quite a few. We had, I think the people before had a motorcycle, so quite a bit of grease just everywhere, maybe some oil residues as well. So went ahead and just poured the concentrate specifically on those spots. And then here I am actually mixing 1-to-1 water with the actual degreaser concentrate right there. So filling up with water right there, and then just filling in the concentrate with water, mixing it up a little bit, and then I'm going to be going ahead and just spreading that around. Yeah, you can see it gets very, very soapy, which is really good. That's what you want when we start to go brush it. But I'm just here, just spreading it around, just making sure I get as much of the surface area as possible, but don't get too stressed out about that because you can use the brush to really push it around and also the squeegee a little bit later to also spread it around. But the brush does everything, so just make sure to get up as much as possible when you're spreading it out. So looks like I had a little bit left over, so that is good. And here we are using the scrubber brush. Make sure you're not sore or anything like that from working out, because this is a lot of arm power. You're going to be really using your strength there to really push in that degreaser into the cement and really make sure you get a really good scrubbing and cleaning in there. So highly recommend taking a lot of time on this step so that you can really scrub all that grease off, especially if it's a really old garage like mine. Mine was in the 70s, so definitely got pretty dirty since then. It really hasn't been maintained at all since then. So all right, once you're done scrubbing, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to rinse all this guy off. So you're going to rinse this guy out of the garage, and you're going to squeegee all that water out, and you're going to continue repeating. I think we did about 2 or 3 times to try to get as much of that soap as possible out. So here's kind of towards the end of it. We had most of it off, but we did another probably rinse and squeegee again. So we want to get that as prepped and ready as possible before we start to do the etching. But the etching does actually need to be a little bit wet when you actually do etch. So just be prepared for that. Once you're done washing it out, we need to make sure that the area is rinsed, and we mix the etching powder with some water, and we just use this watering pail for our flowers. Just use this to kind of spread it around evenly across our entire garage. And then the next step after that was to scrub that stuff in really well and really get some good etching so that it's ready to be opened up and stick to the paint, the epoxy, really well. So that was kind of the big step there, making sure that it's wet. But yeah, we scrubbed the heck out of it, and then we used the squeegee to get everything out of it. We were done for the night. We were exhausted. That was a full-on day, but our garage looked really clean. So we got our fan out, and we left the side door open for the night, and we just left our fan in different places throughout the night and let that thing go and dry the area. Once it was fully dry, it looked beautiful too here. So we were ready to go for the next day. All right, we are 24 hours after drying the whole garage here. Everything's getting pretty dry. I'm gonna wait till 48 hours, but at the 24-hour mark, I'm gonna go ahead and patch a lot of these cracks and a lot of the holes in the concrete. I have my Quikrete concrete patching kit. It's a little bit better price than going with the Rust-Oleum one. And then once I've gone through and patched everything with my putty knife here, I'm gonna go ahead and use this metal brush and brush everything through to make sure that everything's evenly done and complete. So here we go. All right, I filled in all the cracks pretty well. I think I did a pretty good job for the most part. And then I used that metal brush to brush it in, so I was ready to go. And then for my next step, since I was going to wait another day to do the epoxy, I painted the trim. And this actually took a lot more work than I was anticipating. But I was so glad I did it before the epoxy because it turned out really good. I really liked the white
I think it paired really well with the color of epoxy. So highly recommend doing this before you start the epoxy work.
Alrighty, hello everybody. We are pretty much good to go to paint and finally epoxy, which is going to be my favorite part of this, which I'm so excited about. So we cleaned up the cracks, we filled them in, we brushed them. I got my blower out and blowed the whole garage again, and then I painted the whole trim all white, let it dry for about a day now, and we're finally ready to go through the packaging and start this thing up. So I have a pan and a brush here, an extended pole. I don't think I'm going to use this. I think I'm going to use a bucket instead, just because I want to mix the two packages that I have, because I've heard there's some color distortion from some of the reviews. So I just want to make sure I get the mixed color so it's all one, since I'm using two different bags here. I just want to go through the contents here. So we got our flakes. I think there's going to be plenty since I have 2 sets of it. Then I have 1 of the EPOXYSHIELD garage floor coating, and then a second one here. So I'll have 4 total. Oh, and it actually comes with 2 sets of flakes here. So I'll have 4 sets of flakes and then 4 sets of the garage coating. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. Let's do it. All right, we're gonna go ahead and do one of these. So I got all 4 of them out, and based on the side of it, it says burst, tightly roll pouch until seal bursts, allowing contents to mix. And it says to shake thoroughly. And then we just cut the corner of it, and we're gonna be using this bucket here to mix it. So let's just do our first one here. So on the big side, we're gonna roll it and wait till it pops. It very easily popped. All right, and it just says mix it really good. I think the corners get pretty concentrated, so you want to mix this really good. Just gonna be shaking it. Get the corners really good, because I think there's a lot of concentrate, especially on this side. All right, and then I'm just gonna repeat the same thing for the next 3 bags. So I'm gonna have quite a bit of this epoxy, so I definitely will have some left over. All right, mix it really well. Then I'm just gonna be cutting the corner here, just like it says. And we are pouring. All right, love the color. Can't wait to put this in the garage. So I'm just gonna try to squeeze it out a little bit. Make sure I get all the contents. And I actually have a little wooden stir stick, got from Home Depot, so I'll be ready to go with all 4 contents. So rinse and repeat.
Once everything was mixed and ready to go, I grabbed my small brush and I just painted the trim of each of the quadrants that I was working on. I didn't want to paint the trim of the entire thing because I wanted to make sure that the flakes stuck to the trim that I painted. So just did each one of those sections first, and here's a video of it. And then after that, I painted inside that trim. Here I am. Using the bucket, it came out pretty thick, so I really had to try to spread it out quite a bit. Honestly, probably only needed 1 of those containers, but kind of was glad that I had both. Just cheap insurance, I guess, just to have enough epoxy, because once you start, you're going, and there's no stopping you. But I just started going, and I highly recommend having a partner for this. I started going, and then luckily one of my friends came over to help me out towards kind of like the halfway mark. So got 1 quadrant in, and then I could not wait to throw all those flakes. There's so many different strategies to do it, but I ended up in the beginning part throwing it in kind of clumps of area. So when you do finish up painting your quadrant, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're throwing those flakes up as high as you can, because that really helps the randomness of the flakes come down. And just before I throw the flakes, I'm just painting the trim. Really hate this little bollard thing covered in like a cat carpet thing, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, finally open up the flakes here, and you can see it gets really clumpy in this area, but I wasn't too worried because that's where my laundry and my dryer was going. So don't worry about that. But I really recommend throwing those flakes up really high up. It gives you the most like neatly set up epoxy kind of coat on there as well. And it also kind of gives it a little more strength when it comes down, sticks to that epoxy just a little bit better, which is great. But I was also really dead tired, so I was throwing those things out and just really excited to just get it done. But anyway, yeah, moving to my next quadrant. I tried as best I could to kind of do it in quadrants, but some points I went a little bit longer, and then some points kind of went a little bit shorter. But anyway, the bucket worked really well. Just be careful. You can really easily skip a little small section. So before you start throwing those flakes out, it's really smart to kind of take a pause, make sure that you're inspecting every area that you're working in because this is the final touch. I ended up rolling over a little bit of the flakes from the other quadrant, and that was fine. It wasn't a big deal. So don't get stressed out about that. But here I am throwing the flakes, and I think I'm getting just a little bit better at it from that first section. But make sure when you're throwing the first section, when you're starting the first section, that you start somewhere that's maybe going to get covered because you're probably going to be the most inexperienced and not have the best kind of pattern of flakes. So yeah, I think I started getting a little bit better here, but the concentration of flakes really depends on your style and what you want to do. So take a peek at some videos and stuff before you really start to make sure that you know what type of pattern that you want. I kind of wanted like a medium heavy there, so it actually ended up pretty good. One other thing, just looking at this video, it looks like the paint colors are really different, but once you let them dry and sit for a second, it turns out perfectly even. So don't get stressed out about that if you're using the same bin or you've mixed it really well if you're using two of those epoxy kits. So and here I am just continuing going through and doing the trim in the different section here, another quadrant. And then from here, you can kind of see a bigger area that I got done. And luckily, my friend came over and helped me out because I would have let the paint dry too long in that bucket. So it was really good to have some help. So highly recommend it. But as you can see, the coloring a little bit off, but as it dries, it gets to be the same color. But here we are, pretending to be Salt Bay and being done.
All right, it is 24 hours later and we have finished. It looks amazing. I am so thrilled with the way that it turned out. Couple hiccups like here and there with the edging and stuff, but got it all done. And this is 24 hours later and we are ready to put on the clear. I'm gonna go ahead and follow the instructions, do the exact same thing. We're gonna crack this to the other side. Mix it really well, especially on the corners. Just like that. We're gonna mix in it, getting these corners.
Once we mixed it up really good, really try to get those corners as much as possible, we poured it in, and it was actually a really thick kind of liquid. So make sure to mix that in as much as possible to get that liquid a little bit thinner if you can. And then this is the mix in adhesive. It's really like the stickiness on the floor when you're walking. So I only did about half of the packet because I didn't want it to be too sticky when walking around, but really kind of use that packet as like very sticky as the entire thing. If you want to go a little bit less, just kind of take a percentage of that down. But using the exact same steps, this is going to be very similar to what I just did with the epoxy, but I did the trim around on each section, and I kind of did a little bit bigger of quadrants because I wasn't as worried about the clear. But this stuff is really thick, so you kind of got to really push it on and make sure after you start rolling this on that it's not a thick puddle that's left over in there. So did the exact same thing. I'm just starting in this quadrant as well, and then with the roller, like there would be clumps of that material in it, and I think it was just kind of the way that I was painting it on. But I just powered through, and we just went through and we just did each quadrant and got through the clear. And I was unsure about adding clear in the beginning, but I really wanted to make sure that this thing lasted and any kind of spills or anything like that, or just like the walking in general. I just want it to be as cozy and comfortable as possible. So I kept with it, and I actually bought the kit, and I think it was well worth the money. So I definitely recommend doing that as well. Here I am over by the water softener area, and I'm just painting the trim as well. This whole project was a lot faster on the clear coat side, kind of towards the end here. The epoxy took a lot more time because you had to stop and then throw the flakes. But this one, it was so much easier, just to roll over the clear and kind of move on to the next quadrant, and be done. But again, it's really hard to see it. So make sure to get really good lighting if you can. And then if you do have good lighting, you can kind of see it a lot better. But it's tough to see, and you just want to make sure that you don't miss anything because you're probably so tired towards the end of this project you got going on here. So rolled along through, and then from there just kind of moved to my next quadrant, and I had cupboards, so I was really luckily with this roller, you can get underneath there no problem by kind of leveling that roller to the ground and getting underneath the cupboards. But that was one thing I was a little bit worried about.
All right, put a ton of that clear on. We just used one of those 2.5 car garage kits from Rust-Oleum, and it looks really good. I will come back and check in with you guys after 24 hours, and then we can finally bring in our laundry. We got a load of laundry waiting for us here.
I hope you guys really liked that video and the detail I went through to try to make sure you guys saw every piece and process of that project. Super fun. I'm so glad I did it. The garage looks great. Again, here's my timeline, and please like and subscribe to see more.